Good evening, my friends. I am Shi Heng Yi. Tonight, I ask you to truly consider a question that perhaps haunts many of us, yet we rarely articulate it. Are you living your life, or are you perpetually in motion, convinced that the real living starts somewhere just beyond the next finish line? We live in a world that whispers, even screams at us to hurry, to achieve, to acquire. From the moment we open our eyes each morning, a subtle, often unconscious clock begins to tick, a relentless reminder that we should be further along, should have achieved more, should be happier, richer, more successful. It's as if life itself is a colossal competition, a grand race where an invisible scoreboard judges our every stride. But what if this race, this frantic pursuit of more, is the very thing stealing your precious present? What if the finish line you're so desperately running towards keeps moving, always just out of reach, leaving you perpetually unfulfilled, constantly missing out on the beauty of simply being? I want you to truly feel the weight of this question, because understanding it is the first step towards reclaiming your life from the tyranny of speed. We're going to explore how this deeply ingrained urge to rush came to define us, and more importantly, how we can choose a different path, a path not of frantic sprinting, but of profound presence. From the very moment you are born, subtle yet powerful messages begin to sculpt your understanding of time and achievement. Perhaps your parents, with good intentions, compared your early milestones to other children. She's walking early, he's talking late. Later in school, you were graded, ranked, and measured, not just to assess your learning, but to see how you stacked up against your peers. You quickly absorbed the lesson that life is often presented as a ladder. You either climb or you inevitably fall behind. Somewhere along this journey, without ever truly realizing it, you internalized a potent and often damaging belief. Your inherent worth is intrinsically tied to your pace. The faster you advance, the more accomplished, the more valuable you are perceived to be. This belief becomes a silent, pervasive pressure, driving you relentlessly forward, always seeking the next marker of progress, the next sign of success, convinced that these external validations are the true measure of your existence. Yet, here lies the profound paradox of our hurried lives. When you relentlessly treat life as an endless race, you invariably miss the vast majority of it while you're running. This obsession with constant linear progress is a peculiar ailment of our modern age. We chase promotions, tirelessly pursue wealth, relentlessly seek recognition, always clinging to the notion that when we reach there, then life will truly begin. But the cruel irony is that the closer we believe we get, the further there seems to recede. It's a bit like chasing the horizon. You can run all day, indeed, you can run your entire life, but that shimmering line will always maintain the same distant relationship to you. We often deceive ourselves into believing we are being immensely productive, but in a deeper, more fundamental sense, we are merely spinning the unfulfilling wheel of dissatisfaction, trading the rich tapestry of the present moment for some imagined future that forever dangles just out of reach. We've been conditioned to think in rigid, straight lines, from school to career to retirement, believing that if we can just keep moving faster along this predetermined path, we will ultimately win. However, life itself is not a linear progression. It is a grand, intricate cycle. The seasons endlessly turn, the tides gracefully rise and fall, and even your own heart beats not in a frantic straight dash, but in a profound rhythmic dance of expansion and contraction. When you force yourself to sprint through life as if it were a short 100-meter dash, you are fundamentally fighting against its very nature. The inevitable result is profound exhaustion, debilitating burnout, and a deep, gnawing sense that no matter how much you accomplish, it is somehow never, ever enough. And here's the most poignant irony of all. The more desperately you run, the more life itself simply blurs past you in an undifferentiated rush. Consider for a moment a child utterly absorbed in their play. They are not preoccupied with notions of progress or falling behind. They aren't keeping score or measuring their worth against some invisible benchmark. No, they are fully, utterly immersed in the unfolding moment itself. And because of this complete immersion, they are vibrantly, unequivocally alive. Somewhere along our collective journey, many of us tragically trade that exquisite immersion for a relentless ambition. We become convinced that the sole purpose of life is about getting ahead, though ahead of whom no one truly seems to know. But this invisible race, however abstract, becomes intensely real within the confines of our own minds, and that is sufficient to enslave us. The real tragedy here isn't just in forfeiting the richness of the present, it's in living under the pervasive illusion that genuine happiness resides somewhere else, patiently waiting for us at the elusive next milestone. When you live with this mindset, you unconsciously begin to perceive other people not as fellow travelers or potential companions, but as mere competitors. You find yourself constantly measuring your own worth against theirs, their salary, their house, their extravagant holidays. Even the profound connections of friendship and love can subtly transform into transactional tools for advancing your own perceived position in this never-ending competition. But deep down, you intuitively sense the madness of it all. You know, on a fundamental level, that no matter how fast you run, life is not going to present you with a tangible trophy at the very end. You cannot, after all, win a race that fundamentally doesn't exist. So, if life is not this relentless race, what then is it? And crucially, how do you navigate its intricate paths without constantly rushing through its most precious moments? The initial and perhaps most challenging step is to recognize this illusion for precisely what it is. There is no ultimate final arrival. The deeply ingrained idea that one day you will possess everything you desire and finally feel utterly complete is nothing more than a carefully constructed fantasy, skillfully sold to you by a culture that remains profoundly addicted to speed, measurement, and superficial achievement. Life is not about heroically crossing some distant finish line. It is about embracing the exquisite texture of each individual step. It's about the subtle way the air feels as it fills your lungs, the genuine, uninhibited laughter you share over a simple cup of coffee, the golden shifting patterns of sunlight falling across a quiet room in the late afternoon. If you are perpetually running past these seemingly small yet incredibly profound moments, you are running past the only real life you have available to you. One profound reason why we are so often driven to run is that for many of us, the very idea of standing still is profoundly terrifying. If you allow yourself to stop, even for a brief, fleeting moment, you might confront the uncomfortable emptiness you've been so skillfully avoiding. You might finally hear the deeply unsettling questions you've been desperately drowning out with incessant noise and ceaseless movement. Questions like, who am I truly? What do I genuinely want from this existence? What is the ultimate purpose of all this frantic effort? These are far from easy questions to face. They demand immense courage and profound self-reflection, and in their formidable presence, it often feels immeasurably easier to simply remain in perpetual motion, to relentlessly chase the next fleeting goal, rather than risk sitting quietly with the inherent uncertainty and profound mysteries of life itself. Yet, it is precisely in that often dreaded stillness, not within the frantic pace of the race, that life begins to truly reveal its deepest truths and most exquisite secrets to you. There's a beautiful ancient story from the Taoist tradition that speaks of a man who needed to cross a treacherous river. He ingeniously builds a raft, paddles across with great effort, and eventually reaches the safety of the other shore. But instead of gratefully leaving the raft behind, he straps it firmly to his back and carries it for the entire remainder of his journey, solely because it had once served him. Our pervasive obsession with constant progress is very much like that raft. It can undoubtedly serve us and guide us at certain junctures, but if we cling to it forever, if we refuse to release it, it inevitably transforms from a tool into an unbearable burden. True living, profound living, is the subtle art of knowing precisely when to actively move forward and when to simply, consciously be. You possess the capacity to move through life with purpose and grace, without ever resorting to a frantic, unsustainable sprint. You can diligently work towards your aspirations and goals, without ever allowing them to become the singular, all-consuming meaning of your entire existence. The profound secret lies in achieving a balanced, conscious participation without succumbing to the suffocating grip of obsession. Instead of relentlessly asking yourself, how far ahead am I now? Try instead to pose a far more illuminating question. How deeply, truly present am I right here in this very moment? Because when you consciously choose to stop treating your life as a frantic high-stakes competition, something utterly incredible, something truly transformative begins to happen. Time itself seems to gently slow down. Colors in your world appear richer and more vibrant. Conversations with loved ones deepen, evolving into profound exchanges of genuine connection. The smallest, most fleeting moments suddenly begin to hold immense, tangible significance. And in that beautiful, unfolding realization, you understand with a profound sense of peace that there was never any specific place you desperately needed to get to. There was only ever this precious, unfolding present. And profoundly, it was enough all along. When you allow yourself to pause for a duration long enough to truly see with clarity, you begin to discern a crucial truth. This relentless race you feel compelled to run is, in its essence, primarily a construct within your own mind. Yes, undeniable external pressures exist. The looming deadlines, the expectations from others, your various responsibilities. However, the ceaseless internal urge to always be ahead most often originates from an insidious habit of constantly comparing yourself to others. Comparison in this context is akin to quicksand. The more frantically you struggle and attempt to push yourself within it, the deeper you inevitably sink. You start to internalize the belief that someone else's carefully curated timeline should inherently be your own, that their chosen pace is somehow the universally correct one. In this mental scramble, you forget a fundamental truth. No two lives are ever identical. And indeed, nature itself thrives on an astounding diversity in growth and development. Imagine a vast forest. In that natural expanse, one tree might eagerly sprout quickly, reaching valiantly for the nourishing sun, while another, just as vital, might spend years quietly strengthening its deep roots before it slowly, majestically rises. Both trees grow, both intrinsically belong, and neither is inherently behind the other. Yet, we have been meticulously trained to perceive ourselves as competing trees, constantly scrutinizing whether we are keeping up with some imagined standard. This ingrained habit is precisely why so many of us experience a perpetual sense of being late, as if we are always arriving to our own unique lives after the grand celebration has already commenced. But the profound truth is, you simply cannot be late for your own inherent path. Your life unfolds with an inherent perfect rhythm, precisely at the pace it is meant to, if only you grant it the permission to do so. The pervasive trouble is, most of us rarely grant that permission. We prod ourselves, we push relentlessly, we often harshly criticize ourselves for not having reached an arbitrary there yet. We mistakenly assume that the faster we move, the more richly we will experience life. But life, in its profound wisdom, simply doesn't operate in such a linear, accelerated fashion. Just as you cannot genuinely appreciate a meticulously prepared meal if you mindlessly rush through every single bite, you cannot genuinely appreciate the profound richness of life itself if you merely gulp it down without savoring its every nuanced flavor. Speed might indeed transport you to more numerous destinations, but it is depth, genuine presence, that truly allows you to inhabit and truly live within those destinations. Without that crucial depth, your precious life risks becoming a fleeting, dimly remembered slideshow of moments you barely recall. So, how does one courageously step out of this pervasive, invisible race that so many unknowingly participate in? Firstly, you must internalize the profound realization that this is, at its core, a conscious choice you must make. Society, in its relentless pursuit of progress, will not magically slow down for you. The dizzying pace of news cycles, the constant innovations in technology, and the fluctuating dynamics of markets will, in all likelihood, only continue to accelerate. If you are idly waiting for the external world to magically calm itself so you can finally catch your breath, you will, quite literally, be waiting forever. The deeply personal decision to step off this relentless track must originate unequivocally from within you. You must consciously choose to measure the genuine richness of your life by the profound quality of the moments that authentically nourish your spirit, rather than by the arbitrary imaginary scoreboard of external progress. And yes, this pivotal choice inherently necessitates a radical redefinition of what progress truly means for you. Progress might signify the courage to decline a tempting promotion if accepting it would inevitably compromise your health and well-being. It might mean deliberately choosing to allocate more cherished time to your family and loved ones, even if that implies less time dedicated to networking and career advancement. It might even involve passionately pursuing a hobby that offers no tangible financial payoff, simply because it deeply feeds your soul and ignites your inner joy. These choices, while deeply liberating for you, will undoubtedly perplex and perhaps even irritate those who remain firmly caught in the current of the societal race. They might even cast judgment upon your choices. But it is crucial to remember, their confusion is most certainly not your compass. Your true compass is found in the profound question of whether you are truly awake and fully present in your own unique life, whether you can genuinely feel and savor each unfolding day completely, instead of allowing it to blur indistinguishably into the next. Stepping out of this ingrained race does not equate to abandoning all ambition. Rather, it means you cease allowing ambition to drag you forward by the throat. You can still wholeheartedly strive for personal and professional growth, but you do so from a place of genuine joy, inner calm, and purpose, not from a debilitating sense of panic or frantic urgency. It's akin to the stark difference between running because you are desperately late for a critical appointment and running purely because you genuinely revel in the exhilarating sensation of the wind in your hair. The external action might appear identical, but internally, one experience is driven by oppressive stress, while the other is pure, unadulterated freedom. And freedom, my friends, is what you have been instinctively chasing all along, whether you consciously recognized it or not. But here, I must share a profound and perhaps uncomfortable truth. Intentionally slowing down can, at its initial stages, feel deeply unsettling. When you consciously choose to cease your endless racing, you suddenly find yourself confronted by the parts of yourself you have skillfully been avoiding. You might intensely notice a quiet emptiness, feel the lingering presence of unresolved grief, or face the profound questions you have habitually left unanswered. This is precisely why so many people remain trapped in perpetual motion. They mistakenly equate ceaseless movement with a profound sense of meaning. However, if you possess the courage to sit patiently with that initial discomfort, you will invariably discover something truly remarkable. Beneath all the external noise and internal chatter, there resides a quiet, undeniable sense of enough. Not an enough born of settling or resignation, but an enough born of the powerful realization that your inherent worth was never, ever tied to your pace of life or your accumulated achievements. Imagine for a moment waking up tomorrow with no invisible race to run. You would still, of course, have tasks to accomplish, but there would be no imaginary finish line relentlessly looming in the hazy distance. Your fundamental worth would no longer be dependent on achieving some elusive somewhere else. What would you authentically notice first? Perhaps the delicate taste of your morning breakfast, the precise way the sunlight gently shifts and dances across your living room, or the genuine sound of a friend's heartfelt laughter, without instinctively glancing at the clock. When you consciously choose to live without the relentless pressure of a race, individual moments cease to be mere checkpoints. Instead, they themselves become the point of your existence. And that profound shift, my friends, is nothing short of life-changing. Because when you finally stop running, you see with crystal clarity that life was never, in its truest essence, about perpetually arriving. There is no magnificent grand prize awaiting you at the very end, no cosmic medal ceremony to declare you the ultimate victor. The true enduring reward for living well is simply living well, right here, right now, in this very present moment. This is the quiet, profound wisdom held by those individuals who appear genuinely content without perpetually chasing something external. They intimately understand that life is not a mere series of achievements to frantically collect, but a magnificent, intricate tapestry to meticulously weave. And the most truly vibrant and richly layered tapestries are always crafted slowly, deliberately, thread by precious thread. The insistent pressure of the race compels you to rush your weaving, resulting in a hurried, less nuanced creation. Stillness, conversely, grants you the serene clarity to perceive and appreciate the inherent beauty in every single knot and every carefully chosen color, allowing the masterpiece of your life to unfold with grace and intention. So I ask you again, with utmost sincerity, why are you running? Is it because you genuinely, deeply love the exhilarating pace, finding authentic joy in every stride? Or is it perhaps because you are profoundly afraid of what might transpire if you ever choose to stop? If the driving force is indeed fear, then perhaps the most courageous, most transformative act you can undertake is to deliberately slow down. Allow someone else to seemingly pass you by. Let go entirely of that invisible scoreboard that has dictated so much of your journey, because ultimately, the only person you are truly racing against is yourself. And the only genuine way to win this illusory competition is to finally realize that there was never, in truth, a race in the very first place. If you have ever taken a moment to observe children fully engaged in play, you will inevitably notice something remarkably revealing about their nature. They are not, in their purest essence, in any kind of hurry. They do not play with the specific goal of finishing playing. Rather, they play because the very act of playing itself is the point, the entire purpose. There is no external scoreboard, no invisible judge meticulously keeping time. Yet, somewhere along our own trajectory into adulthood, we often tragically lose that profound innocence. We begin to treat life as an unending series of tasks to be meticulously completed, rather than a magnificent sequence of moments to be deeply inhabited and savored. We often label this transformation as maturity, but perhaps, in a more accurate sense, it is simply a profound forgetting. A forgetting that the true inherent value of life resides wholly and completely in the vibrant, conscious act of living. Children do run, undeniably, but they run purely for the exuberant joy of running itself, not to hastily cross some arbitrary, imaginary finish line. The poignant irony here is that many of us run with such relentless fervor toward a nebulous future that we often miss the very essence we are supposedly running for. We envision that genuine rest, authentic happiness, and profound peace will miraculously await us once we finally get there. But inevitably, when that elusive there arrives, it is swiftly replaced by yet another there, and then another, and another. The perpetually moving finish line never truly solidifies because the entire concept of the race was never authentically real. It was merely a deeply ingrained habit of the mind. This is precisely why you frequently hear individuals declare, "I'll finally slow down when things settle down." They remain tragically unaware that things rarely, if ever, truly settle. The mind, with its inherent tendency towards ceaseless activity, will always ingeniously invent a new, compelling reason to continue its relentless sprint. So, the profound question then becomes, if the race itself is an elaborate illusion, what genuinely transpires when you make the courageous decision to step entirely out of it? What occurs is something subtly strange and utterly transformative. You begin to keenly notice a myriad of details that were previously rendered invisible by your hurried pace. The soft rhythmic sound of rain gently falling on your roof, the nuanced sensation of your breath as it gracefully enters and leaves your body, the subtle unspoken shifts in a friend's tone of voice during a casual conversation. These seemingly ordinary things were, of course, always present, but your consciousness was unable to truly perceive them because your eyes were rigidly fixed on the arbitrary demands of the next lap. And it is precisely these deeply felt details, not the grand external milestones, that quietly and consistently nourish your very soul. Herein lies the true challenge, a significant one. Your ego, with its deeply ingrained patterns, will vehemently resist this act of slowing down. The ego, by its very nature, thrives on competition, on the exhilarating sensation of being better or perpetually further ahead than others. It will ceaselessly whisper seductive warnings into your mind. If you stop, you will inevitably fall behind. You will be forgotten, irrelevant. You will irrevocably miss your one chance. But the profound and unvarnished truth is this: if you are always frantically running, you will undeniably miss your own precious life. The only chance truly worth seizing, the only moment that truly holds tangible reality, is the one you are actively inhabiting right now. And no one, absolutely no one, can steal that precious present from you, except for yourself, when you choose to abandon it for the phantom of a race that fundamentally does not exist. To live truly without the relentless pressure of the race is to live authentically and unequivocally on your own terms. It is to consciously embrace the realization that the most precious and meaningful aspects of life, the profound depths of love, the enduring bonds of friendship, the exhilarating experience of joy, the exquisite spark of creativity, cannot be forcibly rushed, meticulously scheduled, or artificially sped up. Consider for a moment the tender growth of love. If you attempted to force or rush its delicate unfolding, it would inevitably collapse under the crushing weight of your urgency and impatient expectations. Think about the profound process of creating art. If you pushed it too aggressively, too impatiently, its inherent beauty and organic grace would dissipate, vanishing into nothingness. So, why then do we mistakenly believe that the entire expanse of life can be crammed into an impossibly tight, unforgiving schedule? Why do we relentlessly act as if speed and speed alone is the ultimate measure of genuine success? The answer lies in a pervasive, often unquestioned story we have been told. A seductive narrative that convinces us that the faster we achieve external markers, the better our lives will ultimately become. But this captivating story, my friends, is a cunning trap. It holds us perpetually hostage, forever fueling the agonizing sensation that we are not enough yet, not quite ready yet, never truly complete yet. When you summon the courage to stop believing this illusory story, another, far more empowering truth slowly emerges into your consciousness. You were never inherently incomplete to begin with. You never needed to win anything external to validate your wholeness. You never needed to outpace anyone to inherently be worthy of love, happiness, and peace. This is precisely why the wisest individuals often appear to move through life with a deliberate, unhurried grace, not because they lack ambition or purpose, but because they have transcended the false narrative of the race. They grasp a fundamental truth that most frantic runners never pause long enough to learn. Every finish line, every apparent destination is merely a cleverly disguised starting line for yet another segment of the journey. You cross one, and another immediately presents itself, perpetually waiting. And so, with growing clarity, you ask yourself, if this journey truly never culminates in an ultimate end, why not embrace and profoundly enjoy the intricate steps along the way, rather than ceaselessly chasing an illusory, distant conclusion? Life, in its infinite complexity, is not a simple straight track. It is, more accurately, a magnificent unfolding spiral. You will inevitably revisit the same fundamental truths from new enlightened angles. You will continually uncover unforeseen depths and new understandings in what previously appeared to be familiar terrain. And the only genuine way to truly appreciate and navigate this sacred spiral is to relinquish the relentless urge to win it. When this profound realization permeates your being, the suffocating obsession with constant linear progress begins, at last, to gently dissolve. However, I must offer a caution. Stepping out of this pervasive race will not instantly render your life flawless or magically perfect. You will still, undeniably, encounter your share of challenges, experience periods of loss, and face moments of deep disappointment. The crucial difference, however, is that these experiences will no longer register as setbacks or failures. Without the artificial construct of the race, there is no metaphorical behind to fall into. There is only the continuous, organic unfolding of your unique path, with all its inherent twists, necessary pauses, and delightful surprises. You cease measuring your worth against the merciless tick-tock of a clock, and instead, you begin to deeply listen to the profound, authentic rhythm of your own individual life. And within that intrinsic rhythm, you will discover something incredibly rare and deeply precious in our fast-paced world: genuine, abiding peace. Peace, in this context, does not signify an absence of activity or challenges. It signifies that you no longer habitually interpret every single event as a harsh judgment of your inherent worth. You receive a promotion? Good. You unexpectedly lose a job? Also, in a profound sense, good, for it may gently lead you towards an entirely new and unexpected direction. You fall deeply in love? Wonderful. You experience the painful ache of heartbreak? Still, profoundly, a vital part of the dance of life. When you consciously stop racing, you simultaneously stop dividing your life into arbitrary categories of success and failure. It all seamlessly merges into experience. It all transforms into the very essence of living. And that, my friends, is the invaluable treasure the race could never, ever grant you. So, perhaps the more profound question isn't, how do I get ahead? But rather, what truly am I running from? If you can answer that question with unflinching honesty, you might just unearth the profound courage to slow down, not because you have lost the will or desire to grow, but because you have reawakened to the timeless truth that growth does not always, and often does not primarily, necessitate constant motion. Sometimes, the most potent and transformative growth springs from profound stillness. Sometimes, my friends, the most truly radical and countercultural thing you can possibly do in a world utterly obsessed with speed and incessant activity is simply to stop. When you consciously choose to stop running, something else profoundly transformative occurs. The people who remain relentlessly sprinting may not genuinely understand your choice. They might label you as lazy or perhaps unmotivated, even unrealistic in your approach to life. They will, without doubt, attempt to convince you that if you dare to slow down, life will inevitably leave you behind. But the profound truth is, life itself doesn't abandon anyone. It's not a bus, for example, that races away while you passively stand at the stop. Life is the very ground beneath your feet, the essential air you breathe, the irreducible moment you are currently inhabiting. You simply cannot be left behind by something you are, at your core, already an integral part of. If anything, it is the ceaseless, frantic running that paradoxically causes you to miss life, not the deliberate act of slowing down and becoming present. And when you finally stop, truly stop, you might just discover, with a profound sense of recognition, that you were already precisely where you needed to be all along. This revelation does not imply that you will abandon all your goals or forsake your cherished dreams. It simply means that you will no longer sacrifice the vibrant richness of your present moments for them. You will continue to work diligently towards your aspirations, but you will do so without the frantic panic of someone being relentlessly chased, without the ingrained belief that your inherent worth depends entirely on achieving those goals. In many fundamental ways, consciously stepping out of the societal race is a profound act of trust. You learn to trust that you don't need to perpetually rush to live a life that is truly full and meaningful. You trust that life will continue to organically unfold its wonders, even if you're not relentlessly pushing it forward every single second of every single day. Trust, in this context, does not equate to passivity or idleness. It means consciously letting go of the pervasive illusion that speed inherently equals value. It means deeply understanding that your profound presence, your conscious engagement with each moment, matters infinitely more than your externally perceived pace. And within that expansive, liberating space of trust, you begin to live with a deeper, more profound sense of ease. This ease is not to be confused with laziness. Rather, it is the calm, centered disposition of someone who profoundly knows they are not in competition with anyone, not even with their own former self. Imagine waking up tomorrow without that subtle, persistent feeling that you are already perpetually late for your own life. Imagine consciously doing what genuinely needs to be done, but without the constant oppressive background noise of more, faster, better. This profound shift does not diminish your effectiveness. On the contrary, it makes you more profoundly aligned with your true purpose. You cease scattering your precious energy across dozens of fleeting goals simultaneously. Instead, you channel your focused attention precisely where it truly matters, and in doing so, you learn to deeply savor the unfolding process itself. It is akin to the patient, mindful act of tending a cherished garden. You cannot, by shouting or hurrying, force the delicate flowers to bloom ahead of their natural schedule. Instead, you lovingly tend the rich soil, meticulously water the nascent plants, and patiently allow the inexorable, wise hands of time to perform their vital work. If you were to prematurely pull open the tender buds, you would inevitably destroy their inherent beauty and potential. Your own life, my friends, is no different. The most exquisite and profound parts of it will graciously unfold in their own sacred time. And your ultimate task is not to frantically attempt to make them happen faster, but to simply be truly present, deeply observant, and patiently receptive when they do. So, when that familiar restless urge to run kicks in, when you feel that almost magnetic tug towards the next thing, pause. Take a moment to truly ask yourself, with genuine curiosity, am I consciously moving towards something truly meaningful and purposeful? Or am I merely running just to avoid the perceived discomfort of feeling still? Sometimes, my friends, that very stillness is precisely what you most profoundly need. It graciously creates an expansive, fertile space for clarity to beautifully emerge. It allows you to distinctly hear yourself again, beneath the relentless noise of external deadlines and the heavy burden of societal expectations. And in that newfound clarity, that quiet resonance, you might very well discover that the very thing you were frantically chasing was, with enduring grace, right beside you all along. There is, you see, a profound and undeniable freedom in consciously choosing not to participate in the race. A freedom that allows you to take the long, scenic way home, to engage in hours of deeply nourishing conversation with a cherished friend without ever glancing at a clock, to slowly and imperfectly create something beautiful purely because you derive joy from the process itself. The world, in its often limited perspective, may not reward you for these quiet acts of defiance in the same way it celebrates blinding speed and quantifiable productivity, but the true invaluable reward is intrinsically woven into the act itself. It is the deep, quiet satisfaction that stems from genuinely living your life, from truly experiencing its nuances, instead of perpetually rushing through it in a blur. And here we arrive at the final, most exquisite paradox. When you ultimately stop running, truly stop, you often find yourself precisely where you yearn to be all along, but, crucially, without the accompanying exhaustion, the gnawing emptiness, or the sense of never quite arriving. The genuine opportunities still present themselves, your relationships deepen and become richer, and meaningful experiences gently arrive. Not because you desperately forced them into being, but because you cultivated an openness within yourself to graciously receive them. Life was never, in its fundamental essence, asking you to frantically run. It was rather humbly asking you to notice the way the soft morning light gracefully filters through your window, to truly hear the genuine laughter echoing in a conversation, to quietly observe those serene moments when you feel completely at peace, for no explicable reason at all. These profound moments, my friends, are not merely obstacles in the path of your progress. They are, in their purest form, the very essence, the ultimate point of it all. If you can learn to live your life in this manner, not as a breathless runner in an endless race, but as a deeply engaged participant in the miraculous unfolding of each and every moment, you will discover that the insidious need to constantly measure your worth against an arbitrary concept of speed simply dissipates, and in its hallowed place, you will find something infinitely more valuable, the profound realization that your life was never, ever a competition to begin with. You don't need to constantly strive to get ahead. You don't need to perpetually prove anything to anyone. You don't need to tirelessly chase a win. All you truly need is to be authentically here, fully present, in the only moment you have ever truly possessed. And in that sacred moment, you might finally discover, with a profound sense of peace, that you were never truly behind. You were, with timeless grace, always precisely where you were meant to be.